Richard Ira Bong was a young boy with a dream of one day roaring through the sky as a fighter pilot. Growing up on a rural farm during the early 1900s in the small town of Poplar, Wisconsin, he persevered to make his boyhood dream a reality. He flew in the Pacific Theater during World War II and returned home a hero. Today, he remains America's leading aerial ace with 40 confirmed kills, though he began humbly as a young boy who would not give up. The mold of Midwest farmer was smashed by this young man from Poplar, Wisconsin. Although Richard's life ended tragically, his memory lives on and continues to inspire. His humility on the ground impressed his peers, but his confidence in the air inspired the nation. Richard Ira Bong was born on September 24, 1920, in Superior, Wisconsin.
Coolidge, that would be the president at the time, had a summer place on Brule River, which is only about 8 or 10 miles away from where we lived. And the mail plane would come in, bringing in the mail for him. It would fly over where we lived. And every time an airplane came, which we didn't see very often, everybody would run out and say, "Airplane, airplane," because we were all excited to see an airplane. Well, he saw airplanes then. And I'm sure that's the beginning of when he thought, "I want to be up there."
Soon, Dick and a school friend were making model airplanes and dreaming of flying them. Almost all of Dick's models were fighters.
He always liked to go fast. And he did the same thing on the ground. When he drove a car, he drove fast. But I was never afraid riding with him.
After Dick graduated from high school, he attended the State Teachers College in Superior, Wisconsin, but airplanes continued to call him. He enlisted in the Army Air Force on May 29, 1941. On January 9, 1942, he completed his training and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army Air Force Reserves. It was July 1942, San Francisco headquarters, and General George C. Kenney was sitting in his office. He had just finished reading a lengthy report about one of the recent exploits of a certain young pilot of his. There had been much annoyance over the pilot who had been flying loop-de-loops around the Golden Gate Bridge and sailing through the city at low altitudes. The general sent for the young man and determined that there would be no mercy. When the lad walked in, the general was surprised to see a short Swedish farm boy with innocent blue eyes. He was obviously nervous. Eventually the meeting finished with the report in the trash, and the young Swede, Richard Bong, walked out of the general's office, still worried but relieved. A new plane had recently been introduced to Bong. It was called the P-38, and it was a dual-engine fighter plane. Although the maneuverability was not as good as the Japanese planes, it could fly faster and farther than any other plane they had. Later that week, the general got permission to send 50 P-38s and 50 pilots to the South Pacific. On that list was the short Swede who had looped the loop around the Golden Gate Bridge, Second Lieutenant Richard Bong. Dick arrived in Australia on September 10, 1942, and was assigned to the 9th Squadron of the 49th Fighter Group of the 5th Air Force. A formation of Japanese planes registered on the radar and a group of P-38s was launched. Bong got 2 of the enemy planes, and while many pilots recounted their mission with much pride, Bong simply wrote his report. General Kenney said after that battle, "Watch that boy Bong. There's the top American ace of aces of this war. He just started to work today." Over the next 7 months, Bong increased his score to 11. On July 26th, he shot down 4 more, which brought his score up to 15. He was 11 away from tying Eddie Rickenbacker's single war record of 26 planes down from World War I. The general then promoted him to captain and awarded him the Distinguished Service Cross. By November 5th, Bong had 21 planes to his credit and headed home. He was supposed to be back in New Guinea after his vacation on February 1st, 1944. Bong never shot any pilot who parachuted from a burning plane like some of the others did. He would say, "Sure, let him go. I figured he is in plenty of trouble already landing in this jungle country. If he don't break his neck or starve to death, when he gets back to his gang, maybe he'll scare them to death telling them what good shots we are." Bong headed back for New Guinea after his leave on January 29th. When he arrived, he decided to take a picture of Marge, his girlfriend, and have it blown up and pasted on the side of his P-38, along with a little Japanese flag for every plane he downed. He wrote and said to her, "You're the most sought-after girl in the South Pacific." On April 12th, Bong became America's all-time leading ace, passing Eddie Rickenbacker's score of 26 by downing 3 planes and obtaining the score of 28. The general had it orchestrated that Dick would take a gunnery course after 2 to 3 weeks leave at home and would come back and instruct the other pilots on the subject. Before Bong left on April 12, 1944, he was promoted to major. It turns out Bong was not a very good shot. Whenever he tried a long-distance shot, he missed. But his superb piloting skills allowed him to get so close to the enemy that he couldn't miss, even in the less maneuverable P-38. The limitations of the plane and the barrier of his lack of accuracy never stopped Bong. Richard Ira Bong left for home, and on June 1st, he proposed to Marge Vadendal, the most sought-after girl in the South Pacific.
They sent him to Texas to get gunnery training, and then he was supposed to come back and just teach the other guys and rather than be up and in combat. But Kenny also really didn't prevent Bong from going up on his own.
Dick got 2 more kills while he was supervising his pupils and was allowed to fly combat once again. Over the next few months, he increased his score to 38, officially shattering the previous record. Around this time, General Kenny requested that Dick be awarded the Medal of Honor. It was presented by General MacArthur, who said, "Major Richard Ira Bong, who has ruled the air from New Guinea to the Philippines, I now induct you to the Society of the Bravest of the Brave, the wearers of the Congressional Medal of Honor of the United States." On December 17th, Bong got his 40th plane after increasing his score to 39 a few days before. The general made the decision then to send Dick home for good, as 40 was enough. General Kenny told him to go marry Marjorie and start thinking of raising a lot of tow-headed Swedes like himself. On January 6, 1945, Major Richard Bong arrived back in the United States and was hailed as America's ace of aces. Dick called Marge and they set the wedding date for February 10th. The wedding was huge and wonderful. They then moved to California, where Dick became a test pilot. One day, Dick was testing the P-80, or Shooting Star as it was called, and it stalled on takeoff. The date was August 7th, 1945, the same day the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. Marge wrote in her book, "I later learned that he had been over a residential area in North Hollywood when he discovered that his plane was malfunctioning. According to witnesses and residents, he guided his ailing plane over homes, skirting high-tension wires to a vacant lot so nobody else would be in danger. Possibly, he could have ejected and saved himself, but to do that, he would have had to abandon his plane. The destruction below would have been tremendous. Not until he was sure that nobody else would be hurt did he think of himself. He did try to eject. It was too late. Truly heroic in every sense of the word. Richard Ira Bong lived a hero's life and died a hero's death. Truly, in every sense." Marge Bong was in her apartment when she heard the news on the radio. She was stunned and alone. She then got on a plane with her brother and they flew back to Wisconsin with Richard's body. Cars were lining the road on the highway by Poplar for half a mile during the funeral. 18 P-47s flew overhead in salute of a fellow airman. Many high-ranking officials sent letters of condolence to Marge and the family. In 1985, Marge was invited to the dedication of the Bong Bridge, which connects Superior, Wisconsin and Duluth, Minnesota. In her book, Marge reflected on a newspaper article which said, "The bridge is another wonderful tribute to Richard, a very important war hero. Pleased to find that he is still revered and respected for all the things he stood for. He was idolized by kids, and young Americans need the right kind of hero today. One that embodies a symbol of excellence, of patriotism." On July 26, 1986, Dick was inducted into the Aviation Hall of Fame. Plans were also beginning for the Richard I. Bong Veterans Historical Center.
We've had so many volunteers here who grew up in Superior and remember him flying over their house when he was a kid or when they were kids, and just hearing about his exploits. And there are stories about how he would land at the airport and all the kids would race on their bikes to the airport so that they could see him. And I think that he was just a hero, especially locally, but he was a hero to so many people around the United States. I hear from Air Force veterans all the time. Most people in the Air Force still know who he is because he is talked about. And, he is a hero to so many of those people. And I think he was an inspiration, and probably a lot of people joined the Air Force because of him.
He broke down the barriers of flying a new, less maneuverable plane and being the best at it ever by downing 40 confirmed enemy planes. He proved that the P-38 worked just fine while eliminating all doubts that he was the best. He didn't hate the enemy but fought to protect his country. He proved that the expectations were not his destination. His place was in the cockpit of a plane flying through the sky at 400 miles per hour. Many don't think that humility and confidence can be connected, but Bong proved that it could be done.
He wasn't one of those show-offs. Big deal. I did this or anything like that. No. He'd walk away from people talking like stuff like that. It just didn't appeal to him. He flew because he liked to fly.
Heroes come in many shapes and sizes. This one came as a short, unassuming, tow-headed Swede from the small town of Poplar, Wisconsin.